New discoveries are revealing ancient civilizations that predate that 5,000 years.
Both of these cultures had the same advanced machining with these stones.
We may not even be able to do today with the tools that we have available.
Is this proof of an advanced ancient civilization on a global scale?
It was the gods' technology, and so that's why we can't do it again.
In 1937, a podiatrist named Doc Noss discovered a cache of Apache gold on what is now the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. Scouting a rocky outcropping called Victorio Peak while deer hunting, Noss took refuge from the heavy rainstorm in a cave. Exploring, he stumbled upon an old mine shaft that led him to thousands of crudely smelted gold bars stacked in rows like bricks. Tragically, Noss was never able to cash in on this treasure because, whilst using explosives in an attempt to widen the cave's opening, he mistakenly created a landslide that sealed it forevermore. The legend of Noss's lost gold gained widespread attention. Where did the riches he had seen come from originally? Theories abound, from the repository of a 19th century Apache war chief to a secret stash from the Aztecs. Treasure hunters world over have come to Victorio's Peak to find Noss's fortune, but none have been successful. Many believe the lost treasure is still buried somewhere in rubble and possibly guarded by the military. Is it possible ancient treasure from a lost civilization lay buried beneath Victorio's Peak? And if so, what else could be beneath this strange area? Researchers like Greg Braden point out that there is more to this area than gold. There is actually a much more ancient system that stretches over 4 states.
What we found in these areas, not so much that there is a hollow space under the desert, but there is a tunnel system, a network that connects many of the indigenous traditions in this part of the world from the area in southwestern Colorado, northern New Mexico, down towards Wild Horse Mesa. And it is this natural system of caverns that the native people say many of their traditions relate to. So they were created naturally through volcanic environments, and then they were modified to become more useful over later generations. But what the ancestors say is that in the past, this is where people have lived when the cataclysms of the past destroyed the surface of the earth. And now we have physical evidence in New Mexico and Colorado. The geologic evidence does not support the hollow earth theory in the sense of a complete space in the center of the earth. It does support within the crust itself a series of tunnels and catacombs that were created naturally and have been known and used by our ancestors, by native peoples in the past. Now, these sites are very controversial because they force historians to rethink the traditional story.
Could this be true? Many of these underground caverns in North America are located in the Four Corners region, where Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico meet. This rugged and arid geographic land, also known as the Colorado Plateau, is predominantly owned by Native American tribes, including the Hopi Nation. In Hopi folklore, it is written that the Indians' ancestors climb onto the surface of our Earth from an underworld. This indigenous tribe believes that the current incarnation of mankind is the fourth world, and that the prior 3 occurred inside the Earth. If this indeed is just the tip of the iceberg to something far more mysterious, what other evidence could suggest that there is an unseen power in this area? Freddie Silva brings us to another location in the Four Corners called Shiprock.
I've seen grown men weep at the sight of Shiprock, or if you want to call it by its real name, Sebitai. And it's one of the most powerful places on Earth for a number of reasons. One, it's described as a navel of the Earth. And any place called a navel of the Earth is essentially a power point, as you'd expect from a navel. And it's a place of beginning where the Anasazi are said to, and I quote, land here from Venus on a metal bird. And when the bird recognized that the people were safe, the bird went into the ground and rose up as Shiprock. You can see it for about 60 miles in any direction. It's a sacred spot. We should respect that. Energy is so unadulterated, so powerful, so potent, it doesn't have to show it. It is itself. And you are suddenly reminded that you are actually crossing a veil.
Could this navel of the Earth be a place where people could cross over into other dimensions?
When it comes to exploring Native American lore, and in particular legends about the underworld, the Four Corners area is particularly important because we have a number of Native American groups that claim to have emerged there. And by that I mean they have an emergence myth that says that they came out of the earth. The Pueblo people believed that they had come out of the earth in that area, around the Grand Canyon area. We have the Hopi, who claim they came out of what they call the Sipapu, which is basically the name for a little hole as part of their chimney system in Akiva. But they claim that they had to come out of something they called the Sipapu, and they had come out of the underworld, where they had interacted with reptilian humanoids called the snake people and the lizard people. And they had also interacted with another group called the ant people. The ant people are described basically in a way that sounds very much like so-called descriptions of modern-day gray aliens. We have this whole idea here that there's a series of worlds beneath, and they all have their own inhabitants, and that these Native American people said they had come up through these various regions to eventually emerge in our world. We have the Apache, who have a similar legend that says they came through a series of caverns to our world after they lived in a place called the Old Fireland, which had been destroyed in a cataclysm and had sunk beneath the ocean. And they claimed that they had come here through a series of caverns, just as the Aztecs said. We also have the Navajo, and the Navajo believed that they came out of the underworld as well. So these are themes that all tie into the Four Corners area, and it's very interesting that the various people, some of them were even adversaries in previous centuries, that they all have similar legends about worlds within our world.
If the premise that modern mankind originated from caverns deep below the Earth is true, then is it also possible that there are entire civilizations still living underground in the Four Corners region?
When we look at the creation stories of our past, as different as they are from one another, there are common themes that weave them all together. I find this fascinating because it is the local understanding of a common heritage, I believe, that is preserved in the traditions of the modern indigenous peoples. One of the most obvious of these common threads is the theme of another world beneath this one, a world, subterranean world, from which our ancestors emerged.
With these subterranean creation stories of the world from which our ancestors emerged, is there perhaps a code or a treasure that could have been left for us to figure out the truth of humanity's connections to the Four Corners? Greg Braden takes us deep into another structure in the Four Corners area that may give us an insight into how this location connects to the sky and what may lie below.
One of the greatest mysteries that we're finding of ancient civilization is right in our own backyard for those of us that live in the United States, in the high deserts of northern New Mexico, Chaco Canyon. Something happened in Chaco Canyon 1,100 plus years ago that we have never seen in the history of the world before, and we never saw duplicated since that time. We still do not know precisely who the people were that built Chaco Canyon, where they came from, why they had the advanced technology, why they had the mathematics, why they had the astronomy, the architecture, the ability to grow food in one of the most harshest environments. It's 12 miles long, 2 miles wide in some places. Within the canyon itself, there are over 2,800 archeological sites that have been recognized. Of those 2,800, 32 have been excavated, and because they cannot be sustained, many of them were reburied to preserve them for later generations. 12 are now restored, and it's those 12 that are telling the story, that is opening the door to forbidden territory when it comes to archaeology, advanced civilizations of our past. One of the most notable places in Chaco Canyon is Pueblo Bonito. It is a very unique D-shaped architectural complex. Over 900 rooms were built into this Pueblo Bonito. Some of them are square, some of them are the circular chambers, the kivas, that play such a significant role in the traditions of the native peoples throughout the desert Southwest. And one of the reasons that this circular chamber is so important is because it ties directly into their creation story. In the circular chambers, in the kivas, there was a place at one end of the kiva called the sipapu. And the sipapu, in the native traditions, is where our ancestors from the past emerged from another world beneath this world. They emerge into this world time and time again. This ties in beautifully to some of the creation stories that we find everywhere from Sumeria to the Mesoamerican traditions in the Yucatan. There's a common theme that runs through all of these stories, and that common theme is that the people emerge from a world that is underneath, it is below the world that we know now.